We're at the historic Rice Museum in Georgetown, South Carolina, and I'm here with the Executive Director, James Fitch. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good. I'm elated to just learn about this facility, this museum. We're in one of the rooms now. Tell me about this room.
Well, I've known you just a short while, and I know you've only been in our area for a year, so this is going to be your first history lesson about this part of our area. We are at the crossroads of civilization, and it's a story of 3 continents: Europe, North America, and Africa. And everything is tied together with the Gulf Stream. We don't think about the Gulf Stream too much, but those strong currents come off of West Africa, up our east coast here, and then over to Europe.
And this beautiful exhibit here, what is this exactly?
Well, this documents our first settlers, our first nations were Indian nations and Indian tribes. The local tribes were all part of the Eastern Sioux family of tribes, and their languages and their customs all reflected that. And some of their names are still here in use in our area: Waccamaw, Santee, Winyah, other names that do not sound familiar to you.
And tell me the timeline of what the viewers will experience if they come here.
Well, that's a very good question for my new student. And of course, we begin with the First Nations that were here, and then we have the European and the African influences coming through in the slave trade and in the European colonization of the east coast of North America. The slaves from West Africa were highly prized here because they knew how to grow the rice. The technology on growing rice here in Georgetown, South Carolina, belonged to the West Africans. There was slavery in West Africa. The tribal emperors took slaves in warfare and in economic dire conditions, and they found that they could bring a better price for those Africans if they knew something about the rice culture in West Africa. And it was all based on the tidal flow method of agriculture, which was introduced here through West Africa, and all of that hydraulic technology.
So James, this is the African American exhibit for the enslaved time period, correct?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about it.
Well, slavery began here very early on, although some of the first settlers may have brought Africans with them who were not enslaved. But anyway, as soon as South Carolinians knew that Africans from West Africa had the technology to grow rice, then slavery in this part of the country increased because they grew rice not only here in Georgetown County, but also in Charleston County, up into North Carolina and down into Georgia a bit. And this exhibit interprets the African American slavery experience from the archaeology of the slave street.
Okay.
So this is what came out of an archaeological dig here in this state. When you develop land into either commercial or residential, you have to do an archaeological survey. And these artifacts came out of a survey like that.
Well, James, this has been absolutely awesome.
Great. Well,
Very
thank you for
inspiring.
coming.
Yes.
All righty, and come back.
Thank
Take the
you.
whole tour.
Thank you for
Okay.
having us.